were surprised, I wasn't really aware of those things. Thanks. So paying your rent on time does not increase your credit score when you want to buy a house. You would think it would, because you have to pay your rent and you're paying it on time, but it actually doesn't help your credit score when you want to purchase a house later. However, if you miss a payment on your rent, then it will hurt your credit score. Okay, so that's kind of a tricky situation. Then also having no credit is also not helpful. So a lot of times people are really fearful of having credit cards because they hear really bad stories about them. But of course you do have to be able to discipline yourself to manage those credit cards. But it's good to have some credit because then they know that you are credit worthy. We can lend you money and we know that you're going to pay us back. That's why having credit is good. Number 3, you may need a credit card to rent certain items. Although you want to handle them with caution, there are some things that you can't purchase just with a debit card. So for example, if you go on a vacation somewhere and you need to rent a car, a lot of times they want a credit card, not a debit card. And that's just because a lot of times you won't have enough money in your debit card to cover any expenses, say the car gets wrecked or damaged or anything like that, since it's a larger purchase. And then lastly, federal student loans are always better than credit card options. So if you're going through the semester and you have your financial aid for your fall semester and your spring semester, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I have to take a summer class, and you need that money, you need to pay for that class. It's very easy to just go to a credit card, but those credit cards are going to have a higher interest rate. You can just go back to your financial aid office and let them know I have to take a summer class. Can I get more financial aid to cover the summer semester? And that is going to be the best option. So as far as lifestyle, when you think about your financial freedom, what does that look like to you in your future, whether it's 5 years or 10 years down the road? That could be, wanting to travel the world and, have nice vacations and really just enjoy your time now that, you finished with college and all of that. Or you just be maybe more practical and say, hey, I just want to really have a really high credit score so that I can buy, whatever I need to buy when I want to buy it. Or you may know, I have to have a beautiful home. It has to be brick, has to have 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. I need a swimming pool and a nice fence. So you may have this image of like, this is what I want to have. So that might be the lifestyle that you see for yourself. As you have those goals, whatever your financial goals may be, to make sure that you're writing them down. Okay, in order to make them actually occur and to accomplish those goals, if for a lot of students, I'll tell you, it is like paying off your student loans. So if you say that you want to pay off your student loans, what's the timeline on that? By when? Is it by the time you're 30 or you're 35? If you want to buy a home, then you need to write that down. How much do you need to be saving per month? What would that down payment look like to buy the home of your dreams? Make sure that when you write down those goals, there's somewhere where you can see them every single day. And then as far as those goals, what are some of those barriers to the goals? So for most students, it is the student loans. They see that as a barrier because instead of just being able to put all their money towards what they would like to have, all their purchases, whether it's a home or car or vacation, they're going to have to pay their student loans back. The other very common barrier is how much you will be earning. What is my first job going to be right after college? And how much am I going to be earning? How much do I need to make? How much should I ask for? So if you haven't attended the salary negotiation workshop, I would highly recommend that workshop as well. Now, financial psychology. Financial psychology, it's such a unique subject because of the emotional ties that we all have to money. And the main reason for that is because who taught us about money? Everything that we know about money and about spending and saving and buying the things that we want to buy, all those things we learned typically are from our parents, right? So, what our parents teach us is right. right? And it's like you don't want to hear anything different. It's hard to hear anything different. So all the financial decisions that you make are usually based on two key emotions, and that's greed and fear. Okay, greed because if you've ever been like walking in the parking lot and you find $10, or say you're just like looking in your old pair of jeans and you find money, a lot of times we find the $10, and yes, we're happy that we found this money that we didn't know we had, but then sometimes we also think it was $20. I wish it was $50 instead of just the $10. And then also when it comes to a job, when you get hired and you hear, okay, this is how much I'm going to get paid. But then what you don't want to hear is like, you don't want to hear that somebody else is getting paid more than you, because you're like, oh, I should have asked for more money, right? Because we're always wanting that a little bit more. Side of that is fear. Be able to pay for the things that we need, whether that's pay our rent, pay our food, having our lights on, all of our utilities, our phone bill, you don't want those things getting cut off. So there's always that fear that we're not going to have enough money. So I want you to give some thought to what influences you to make your purchases. Okay, so, is it that you only purchase things that you need? Or is it, just I really want this? Sometimes marketing has something to do with that. So do advertisers affect your spending habits? Sometimes when they have really, really good commercials, they do a really good job at advertising where you're like, man, I really need this. Like I have to have it, or everybody has it. All the famous celebrities have it. It's just a cool thing to have. And then how do you feel when you don't have the money that you need to make a purchase? For some people, like they get sad or they get depressed and things like that. And yes, that's very normal. But sometimes people, they just start thinking about it and they're like, you know what? I work really hard. I'm a full-time student, I have a part-time job, I make good grades. I deserve this. I deserve this anyway. So that's when it comes to like spending on credit cards, where you may not have the money in your actual bank account, but you're like, I really deserve this, so I'm going to spend it anyway. So budgeting. Budgeting is a financial roadmap. So what method do you use to manage your money? That's really my question. So of course, back in the older days, like they used a checkbook, right? But nobody uses a checkbook anymore. So is it that you just check because everybody usually has their bank account on the app. Do you just check your account and be like, yep, I have money, let me go spend it? Or do you have a system? Do you have a spreadsheet? Or do you have an app that actually tracks your spending so that you know? And then when you have bills coming up, do you have a system of, this is when this bill is due, this is when I need to pay it? And I will show you some apps that can be helpful in budgeting your money a little bit later. And then what do you do when you need something that is over your budget? So, and this is just, you need something, not you want something, but for example, just say you're on campus, and you happen to park in the wrong area and your car gets towed. If you've ever had your car towed on campus before, it's about $300 to get it out. And every single day it stays there, it adds more money. So it is an immediate need. Okay, and so where do you go? What do you do? I will tell you, for the sake of time, most people say, number one, their parents. They're going to go to their parents for the money if they don't have it. And then maybe friends or relatives that might be able to assist them. But say you don't have anybody to lend you that type of money. You will notice that there's a lot of advertisement and commercials for like quick loans, or like car title loans, things like that, where they say, oh, you don't need any credit, we'll give you a loan. Those type of deals are extremely high interest rates. They are going to charge you an arm and a leg if they're going to lend you even just a little bit of money. So you need to beware of those things. Some other things that students have told me are they start, not layaway, but pawning. Excuse me. They start pawning things, pawning jewelry or things that they have, because it causes a desperate situation when you don't have a budget. So then we need to look at those 3 budgets that you should have. So number 1 being the current budget, which is your monthly budget. You know what comes in every month and you know what goes out every month, what has to be paid every single month. This is usually your phone bill, your rent, your gas for your car, your food, things like that. Then there's your emergency budget. So the emergency budget, that's something where you need to put that in a savings and you don't touch that money. That is for when you get your car towed. If you get in a car accident, things like that. In your emergency budget, I say you should have at least $500. And that, I say 500 because if for some reason you get in a car accident and the other person doesn't have insurance, that's the normal deductible. It's 500. So I would start there, having at least 500 for that emergency budget. And then the last one is your long-term budget. So if once you graduate, you're going to take a great vacation, or you're going to buy a car, or you're looking way, way down the road, long-term being 5 or 10 years down the road, this is something that you want to do, then you can keep a saving or budget just for that long-term expense. So pretty much budgeting allows you to handle all unexpected expenses that you may have. So this is how you budget your money. It doesn't matter if you have $1,000 coming in every month or if you have $10,000 coming in a month. This is how it should be divided. So 60% should go to your living costs. Okay, those are the things that you need. And we will say, like, your phone, your food, your rent, all of those things that you have to have, they are a necessity. 20% would go to savings. Okay, and that can be emergency savings or long-term savings. You can divide that however you'd like, but it needs to go to savings, so you don't need to spend that, and that should just build and build over time. The 10% in investing. So investing can be a lot of things. Yes, there are some people that start investing like in properties very early in life, which is very wise, or some people stocks and bonds and things like that. But investing in yourself is also your schooling, right? You're paying for your college, you're paying for your books. You may be paying for a suit if you're going to go on a job interview, or professional certification, things like that. So all those can be looked at as investing. And then the last 10% is just charity, just for spending, nonprofit organizations, churches, any cause that you may want to give to. So how's your credit? So I've been really, really happy with a lot of the banking apps. They actually tell you your credit score now. But what is credit? It is the ability of a customer to obtain goods or services before payment, based on the trust that the payment will be made in the future. So I will ask you, how many people here, if you raise your hand, how many people know their credit score? Wow. That is wonderful. Wow, that's really impressive. I am so proud. That's awesome. That's awesome. So why do you even need good credit? Why is it important? It's important because it affects the payments that you make, whether they're high or low, the interest rate that you're going to pay, and then the length of time that you're going to pay on that loan. So it affects all of those things. So these are the FICO scores that your credit score uses. So you can see 800 to 850, impeccable credit. 700 to 790, excellent credit. 650 to 690, good credit. And that's where most Americans lie, is in that good credit zone of 650 to 690. 620 to 640, fair credit. And then 610 or below is poor credit. So the better your credit score is, the lower interest rate you will have to pay. So the translation is that you're going to pay less to borrow the same amount of money as someone who has a bad credit score. Do you have, let me see, any questions in the chat?
No, there's no questions right now,
Okay.
Cynthia.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go to real life examples now. So we're going to say you want this $300,000 home. It's in Pearland. You see it's 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, has a private pool. And then we have 2 individuals. We have Rachel and Monica. So Rachel has a credit score of 620, right? It's not too good. And then we have Monica, who has a credit score of 790. Okay, and let's see what that means for them as far as their payments and their interest rates. So Rachel would get, based on her credit score, they gave her an interest rate of 4.5 for this home. Her mortgage is going to be $1,520 per month, and $255 of that is going to go to interest. Where Monica, she has an interest rate of 3.25. Her mortgage is $1,306 per month, and then $41 is going to interest. Okay.
Cynthia, and then we have 2 questions in the chat.
Okay, go right ahead.
And they're related to, one is related to renting, and the other one is related to a few slides back to credit repair. So one person's asking, can I rent an apartment with a 707 credit score and no credit card currently? That's the first question.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times it will depend on the apartments, but yes, with the 707, that's decent. You know, that's a good credit score. Is there any way to repay your credit card is damaged from your parents? Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yeah, it may take some time, but yes, it can be done. It always can be done. You can have below a 600, and eventually it's going to change just by making the right decisions.
And then the last one's a great question. I know you're going to share some resources too, Cynthia, but someone's asking, Trent is asking, where can I get an accurate score? Because there's so many websites that give different scores.
So you should be able to go to the actual credit bureau where you can log on and get your credit score, and it'll show you all of them from all the 3 credit bureaus. And then, so what can I pay with a debit card? Yes, absolutely. You can pay for things with a debit card. Since each website is different, yeah. Okay. So, so we see the difference here as far as buying a car. Okay. And I will tell you, especially you'll see a lot of commercials that you no credit needed, because, you know, if you need a car, you need a car. They're going to sell you a car. They're just going to charge you a lot of interest for it. So just know that you're going to be able to get a better deal when you have a better credit score, especially on a vehicle. Now I have a credit card. It's a Capital One credit card. $5,000 was spent on this card. Rachel, you can see her interest rate is 28% interest rate. She has to pay $206 per month, and then $59 is going to interest. Whereas Monica, she has an 8% interest rate on this same credit card. She only pays $156 per month on her statement, and then $9 goes to interest. So when you calculate these things, it's only like a little difference between each of the things, the house, the car, and the credit card. But when you look at it per month, Rachel's paying $2,257, where Monica's paying $1,911. Wouldn't you rather pay what Monica's paying than paying what Rachel's paying? And then when you look at that over the year, then Rachel's paying $27,084 and Monica's paying $22,932 per year. So that means that the good credit saves Monica $4,152. And remember, these individuals have the same thing. They have the same house, they have the same car, and they have the same credit card. So when you look at it from the outside, you know, they're the same, right? They have the same things, but Rachel's paying a whole lot more for those same things. So credit report. What is a credit report? It's like a report card. It tells how well that you've managed your finances. So it's a historical record of how and when you have been paying your bills, how much debt you have, and how long you've been managing your credit cards. Yes, how long you've been managing. Is there another question?
There is. Stephanie's asking, is it a good idea to start building credit as an authorized user on someone's credit card who has an impeccable credit score?
Absolutely. If you're lucky enough to have a parent that has an impeccable credit score and you can build your credit with them, yes, you can as an authorized user. It's a great way to get started. So how do you change that credit score? The ways that you can build your credit score, number one, keeping the credit utilization ratio at 30% or lower. So what that means is if you have a credit card that has a balance, a limit of $1,000, as soon as you make your purchases and it hits 300, you need to stop. So that's 30%. So however much money they're giving you on that credit limit, don't use more than 30%. If you do, just make sure you pay it off. And if you don't pay the whole thing off, at least pay down to the 30%. Number two is paying your bills on time. It seems like that's really simple, right? But sometimes we forget. Sometimes, things come up and it escapes us, but that can really be costly. So you have to pay your bills on times. You have to put it on your calendar, set reminders. There's definitely apps for that will remind you. Mint is one of my favorite ones because it tells you, that you have a bill coming up before it's time to pay it. So it's a reminder. And then protection against fraud. So securing your documents, making sure that anything with your Social Security card on there, that you shred them. You don't just throw them away. Make sure that you shred them. You want to always make sure you're checking your credit score, just because, things do get stolen. I know they have, like on gas stations, they've used skimmers before. So you want to keep track of what's going on and what's being spent on your cards if you have them. And then also purchasing insurance. So purchasing insurance is very, very important because you are the asset. You are going to be the person that's going out and making money. So you have to keep yourself healthy and you have to protect that. So health insurance is very, very important because you're going to be going to work every day and you need to make sure that you're healthy enough to do that every single day. With property, if you buy a home, you need to protect that home. All it takes really is just, one hurricane, right? One flood, one pandemic, to mess everything up. So you can really be making your money, be managing your money, but if you don't have insurance, that can all be destroyed, okay, just from not being protected. Will the credit card be closed if we don't use it for a while? Yes, they will do that. If you don't use your credit card for a while, they will close your card, especially retail stores. Okay, let me see. What does not affect your credit score? So this is really important. So savings, you can have $1 million in the savings. It doesn't matter. If you're not paying your bills back on time, you're still going to have a low credit score. Assets, so you can have boats and houses and all these different assets, and it still doesn't matter because if you're not paying, you're not reliable to them. And then income. So it doesn't matter if you're working at McDonald's and you're making $20,000 a year, if you're making $1 million, the person working at McDonald's can have a higher credit score than the person making $1 million. Okay, so it's not about how much money you have coming in, how much money you're making. It's about your ability to manage that money.
And we have a follow-up from Maria.
Mm-hmm.
She says, if they close the card, just following up with the first question, will it damage your credit score?
Yes, a little bit. Too much, but it will drop. Yeah, and I'll explain a little bit why that happens. For the credit report, we had talked about the three major credit bureaus, so Equifax, Experian, and then TransUnion. Those are the three major credit bureaus that you want to check whenever you check your credit score or go to one of the websites to check your credit. So with credit utilization, I just want to give you a visual on this one. So when you're measuring that, all it is your total debt over the total available credit. So it does help whenever you're paying your bills on time, especially your credit card bills on time, and you keep doing it. What they're going to do is they're going to give you more credit, right? And especially as a college student, when you first get, usually your first credit card, they start mailing you credit card offers when you're 18 years old, because that's when you can start getting your credit card. And they only give you usually a little bit, like maybe $500, and they see how you manage that. But if you're really good at managing your money, you'll notice that they'll keep sending you increases. They'll increase your credit limit and increase your credit limit. And it's like, yes, of course they gave you 500 the first time, but when they start throwing at, $10,000 at, credit limits at you or more, it's like, wow, I could buy something that's $10,000. But that will help your credit utilization also, because it's the total available credit and then what you're spending on top, that total debt that you're spending. So you can see this one right here, the credit debt, and then the total credit. They're only using 6% of what they could. So when they're weighing the credit report, most of the percentage, the weight of your credit score goes to your payment history. So as long as you're paying your bills on time, your credit score is going to continue to be high. It's going to continue
800
to increase. Okay. And then the 30% is going to go to how much you owe. Okay, so that's your credit utilization ratio right here, this 30%. This 15% is the length of credit history, which you really can't help that. When you start your credit is when you start your credit. Usually you can start your credit at 18, but some people wait, and they don't have a credit card, they don't buy a car, that may be later into your 20s, but that just is an individual decision of when this credit history begins. The 10% for the credit mix is your mixture. So do you have credit cards, which is revolving credit? Or do you have installment payments where it's a car note and then it's paid off? So that's just a mixture of the types of credit that you have. And then the new credit is just like when you go to the retail store and they say, hey, would you like to open a credit card? And you're opening new credit lines. Okay, explain about the collection. Okay. Okay, yeah, Judith, I will talk about that in just a second. Don't let me forget. So now this is Rachel's current debt situation. Let's say she has these credit cards. She has 4 credit cards. Now the first one, credit card A, she owes $8,000 and her interest rate is 27%. Then she has credit card B, she owes $5,000 on that one and her interest rate is 22%. Credit card C, she owes $6,000 and she has a 14% interest rate. But she just opened a brand new credit card, so it's a zero balance. Credit card D, and she can transfer $8,000 from her other credit cards over to this new credit card. So this new credit card is going to give her a 0% interest rate for 6 months. And then after that is going to become 18%. So my question to y'all is, should Rachel transfer her $8,000 balance from credit card A to her credit card D? And why? Does anyone have an answer for this? What they think? You can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and let me know what you think she should do. Should she transfer or not?
I would think so, because the interest rate's lower, plus period where there's no interest occurring, so she can really attack that that loan. Right.
Thank you, Joshua. Yes, so that's absolutely what she should do. Because she has that 6 month of no interest, she can really pay down on that card. And then even after that, once that grace period's over and it goes up to 18% is still lower than what she was paying with the 27%. So that's definitely a good decision on her part. Now, the second part of that is, once she transfers that money from credit card A to credit card D, should she close credit card A with that 27% interest rate? It's a little bit of a trick question, but let me know what your thoughts are. Should she close it?
Well, yeah, you can go ahead.
I was going to say she shouldn't close it, because then her score might go down because the length of time is less.
Right. Okay. What about you, Josh?
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay. Okay. So yes, this really depends on the individual. So she shouldn't close the card because you're right. When she closes the card, then her credit score is going to drop a little bit. However, if she can just keep that card, go put it in a drawer, don't look at it, cut it up, and don't touch it, then that's best. However, if she's an individual that knows, I cannot leave that card alone, like I am not disciplined, I'm going to go spend, I can't say no, then she should close it. Because what she's going to end up doing is costing herself more money, because if she knows she's going to go use it and spend on it, she's going to rack up more debt on it. And it's going to cost her more money. So it's really all about discipline. If you know yourself and you are disciplined enough, then definitely just keep it open and don't touch it. So now we're going into debt. So usually debt is just a bad word in general, right? But there is good debt and then there's bad debt. So with good debt, loans to purchase items that go up in value or appreciate, they'll create revenue for you. So those are good debt. And then bad debt is going to be loans to purchase items that will go down or depreciate in value. So what are your thoughts on these, appreciation versus depreciation? What about college? That's an expense, right? It's a costly expense. But is that a good debt or a bad debt?
I would say it's an investment, but I've noticed that college tuition's getting higher rate wise than actual salaries of individuals. So maybe there's an issue there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's true. For the most part, people go to college. Why? So they can earn more money, right? So that we can request more money in a certain position. So our hopes are that it would be a good debt, it would be a good investment, because you have the potential to make more money coming in. However, how you could make college a bad debt is by getting in a couple semesters, and if you were to drop out, then you would have created debt for yourself, but then not had the gains of actually leaving with a degree. That would turn that into a bad debt. Okay, what about a house? Does that appreciate or depreciate?
Majority of times houses appreciate. It just depends on the area you buy it into. Sometimes if you buy it in like a bad area, they could depreciate, but most of the time appreciates.
Right. Very good. Yes, homes, properties, land almost always appreciates. The trick on this one is you want to make sure that you always protect that investment, right, with insurance. So yes, houses do typically always appreciate. If you buy a house right now for $80,000, in 10 years, it's probably going to be worth over $100,000, right? So it is going to go up in value. Now, a new car. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, a new car is probably the worst investment you could possibly make. And the reason is because new cars are super expensive. No matter what kind of car it is, new cars are really expensive. And as soon as you drive it off the lot, like if there's 0 miles on it and you drive it off the lot, it goes down by like $5,000 just by driving it off the lot. Okay, so on that one, that I would say is probably not a good investment. It's always going to depreciate, right? It's kind of like our new technology when we spend $1,000s on phones, but then there's going to be a better phone in just a couple of years. So it's always going to depreciate. So Texan season tickets. So that one, most people say like, oh, that's a bad debt. I said that right away. I'm like, no, that's a bad debt. It's entertainment. It depreciates. You use it and then that's the end of it. But one way that you could turn that, what I call a bad debt, into a good debt would be if you're making decisions and say, hey, I'm going to buy these tickets, which season tickets are extremely expensive, right? If you can get them. And then say, I'm only going to go to these games. And then let's say I'm going to sell these tickets because I don't want to go to those games or I can't go to those games, because then you're creating revenue for yourself. Okay, so that's one way you could change a possible bad debt into a good debt. And then lastly, professional certifications. So those are just really investments in yourself, where they're going to increase your value as a professional. Okay, so that's appreciating yourself, right, and your worth. So hopefully none of you have this problem, but paying down debt, the process for doing that is going to be to list out all your debts in a spreadsheet. What you want to do is contact each of those debtors and contact them and ask them, can you reduce this interest rate? Which is really scary, but all they can tell you is no. So, you know, you need to know, can they lower your interest rate? Once you know that, then you'll go down and you find the one that has the highest interest rate. And you want to make sure that you make the minimum payments on all the other ones. But that's the one you need to target. That's the one you need to pay off first. Okay, so the majority of money that you're going to put to paying them off is going to go to that one with the highest interest rate. Now, they do know that people don't have time to be calculating like their APR and how much interest here and then their daily APR, all of that stuff. We don't have time for that. So really, there was an act that was passed in 2009. It was a federal law that changed the way credit card users practice as a consumer right. So what they did is they laid it out for you. If you look at your credit card statement, now, this is an old one, but it's an American Express card. It tells you right at the top, late payment warning. If you don't pay this minimum payment by this date, there's going to be a late fee of $38. And then your APR is going to increase to a penalty APR of 29.99%. So no, it doesn't matter what your APR was before. It's going to increase if you pay it late. Okay. Then it also breaks down in that chart, though. And this is what I like, because so you don't have to calculate anything out. If you only make the minimum payment, it's going to take this person 24 years to pay off this credit card. And they'll end up paying $30,073. Whereas if they put $479 into paying it off every month, it'll only take them 3 years. And then they would have only had to pay $17,245. So that's a lot of savings right there. Okay, so this is really nice that they made it very simple for consumers to understand what they should be doing as far as paying off their credit cards. These are some financial tools for budgeting. Mint is rated the #1 budgeting app. So if you don't have a certain budgeting app, I would recommend Mint. If you're looking at getting a credit card because you don't have a credit card, NerdWallet is good because you kind of put what you like, you know, what do you spend your money on? Like, is it entertainment? Do you do this, do that? So you answer like a questionnaire, and then it kind of tells you what are the best credit card offers that you can probably get. And then Credit Karma, just so you can keep up with your credit. Why is it going up? Why is it going down? And then it updates every couple of days. If you're interested in saving money or investing money, Stash or Acorn are very good apps to where you can put money in there into savings. You can tell it to put, you know, $10 every week from your checking account and to put it there into a savings account and Stash. And once that builds up over time, you have, you know, $10 every single month. And then at the end of the year, you have over $100. It shows you companies that you could invest in. And you can just through the app, you can decide what companies you would like to invest in. And then you can see how, you know, how it goes up. The value goes up and the value goes down through that. And then income, they have paycheckcity.com and also salary.com. And I have some slides of what those look like. Then the federal student loans. If you don't have federal student loans and you need to take a loan, I don't recommend private loans. Like I said, federal student loans are definitely the best bet because of the interest rate. If you get in a bind later on, they're very lenient. They're very understanding. If you don't have a job, you can't pay what you owe, you know, they will work with you. So there's a lot of leniency with the federal student loans. And then debt management. So this is just a Vertex. It's a calculator to help you pay down to reduce your debt. It's a snowball calculator of how to pay everything off. So I'm going to show you what the salary.com looks like. So it's one of my favorite ones. So it says, what am I worth? So say you're a senior and you're going to graduate in December. You can put the job title that you're looking for and then the location. And then what it does is it gives you a breakdown and it tells you what the median income is, how much you should be earning, but then you can also add extra information like your education level, the years of experience that you have, and it will adjust. So what is Credit Karma for? It's really just to keep track of your credit. So you know why it went up, why it went down. If somebody tries to use your credit, like your social, it will alert you. Did you do this? Did you open a new credit card? So it kind of guards your credit. Okay. Let me go. There we go. I'll go right there. So definitely on the salary.com, you know, whatever the position is on the previous slide. Okay. So if you're going to be looking for like a retail manager position, if you use salary.com, it's going to give you a different amount if you were to be working in Houston versus if you're going to be working in New York, right? You're not going to be asking for the same amount of money. They're not going to pay anywhere near the same. So that's why it adjusts for that. So that's very helpful. Okay. And then this one is Paycheck City. So Paycheck City, in case you want to know what is actually going to be your take home for your paycheck. So you can put the state, right? So it has, if you there's state taxes, it considers that. You put your state, you put your gross pay, what they told you you're going to be earning. You can adjust your filings if you're single, you're married, you know, all of that, and then your federal allowances. And what it does is it breaks it down for you so that you know what your net pay is going to be. So that you say like, okay, they said I was making 3,000, but I only got, you know, 2,304. That way it's not a shock in case you want to, you know, add or take out anything from your paycheck, any deductions or anything like that. Okay, so this is just to review what two emotions lead to our financial decisions. So those are going to be greed and fear. And then what are the two major factors that affect your credit score? Those are going to be how much you owe, your credit utilization, and then paying your bills on time. Those are the most important things that affect your credit score. What creditor should you focus on paying off first? Definitely the one with the highest interest rate. In order to help your credit score, you need to keep your credit utilization under what percent? And that's 30. So another thing I will mention is once you graduate and once you go on, you're making big purchases, which usually the most important one is your home. You also need to consider, you need to share this information. This is very important information. You know, you're learning things in class, you know, in history and math, and I can't promise you that you're going to use like Pythagorean theorem in your life, but I guarantee you're going to use this. You're going to use financial because you're going to have to manage your money. You're going to be making money, and you have to know how to manage it and what you're doing with it. So it's extremely important. Does anyone have any questions? I know someone did mention about parents and credit. So being young, you need to make sure also that you don't allow other people to use your credit. Because you probably have good credit right now, you haven't had time to mess it up. There are sometimes individuals that will ask you, oh, can I borrow your social so I can make a purchase? And having good credit, you know, that's great. But the thing is that if you let them do that and then they don't pay that bill off, it's going to be on your credit and it's going to stick with you and you're going to have to pay off that debt. Okay. The other thing is with big purchases, if, for example, later you get married, you have a partner, you're going to look at both of your credits. So it's like you can't just make a purchase for a home usually by yourself. So you may have good credit and the other person has bad credit. They're going to look at both of those. So that interest rate is probably still going to be higher. So that's why I said you have to share this information with everyone you know, with family, friends, just everybody, because it is very important because it'll affect all the purchases that you make later. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you just go over about the collection part, like when you don't make that payment and then like a certain amount or years, I guess, it moves to collection. Can you just go over that part?
Yeah, sure. So when you don't make a payment, so usually they will continue asking you for payment over and over and over again. But once you don't pay them, send that debt to collections. Then the collections company will call you and they want you to pay off that debt. That'll usually stay on your credit score for at least 7 years. And not until then will it fall off. But if at any time you want to pay off that collections agency, then you would just have to contact them and then you would have to pay them off. And remember, it's still going to stay on your credit report because it's like a report card. It's a historical record. So it'll remain on your credit report, but it will say that you did pay it off, which will help your credit score if you do.
But once it falls off, does it still shows that you didn't pay it off?
Yes, it will show that it wasn't paid, but it won't affect your credit score anymore. It'll just be on the report.
Okay.
Yeah, but your credit score will still go up over the 7 years. After that 7 years has passed, it'll still go up.
Thank you.
The other bad thing I will tell you that, when you don't pay your debt back and it does go to collections, if you do have property, they can put liens on your home to where you can't sell your home until you pay off that debt. So that's other things that they can do. I've even seen that done when it's not on the credit report anymore. But if they had put a lien on your home, then that's when you're going to realize, like, oh my goodness, I am going to have to pay that off if I want to sell my home. So they can definitely tie things up for you.
Cynthia, there's another question.
Okay.
Someone's asking, are there any tips or advice for first-time apartment renters in particular?
Okay, for first-time apartment renters, I would just say make sure you just live within your means. Don't get something that's extremely expensive. Make sure that you can afford it comfortably, right? You're going to be able to pay everything off, all your other expenses that you need, and then just pay, and then pay the rent comfortably on that. Renter's insurance, definitely, because you never know, anything could happen, fire, floods, theft, anything like that. And just make sure you pay your rent on time, because like I said, it won't help you later when you want to purchase a home, but it will hurt you if you forget to pay your rent, okay, or miss payments. Are there any other questions?
That's all that's in the chat for now.
Okay, that sounds good. And I see you put the survey on there.
Yes, so make sure before you all leave, if you can fill out our short survey, sharing any tips that Ms. Olmedo shared with you today, and give us any feedback on how we can make the workshop better, or anything that you like or want to take away with you as well. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Bye-bye.